Now, something that seems very obvious is that a trustee needs to read trust books. Now, the problem is that there are not a lot of trust information out there. You can go online and find a bunch of stuff, but really there's not that much information. And if you want to find it, you're going to have to probably invest some money. Or you have to go dig into the Library of Congress, if you can get over there, or whatever's the equivalent, and really find some books on trust. The information on common law trust is not easy to come by. The information on regular trust is a statutory trust, not regular, a statutory trust. So the information, while it's not completely the same, will give you a good foundation of what's going on. It's just you have to operate it slightly differently. So whatever book you can find on trust, it needs to be picked up, and needs to be read, it needs to be digested. You got to master this trust thing because there's a lot to do. It's something that's going to go on for a really long time. And there's going to be different situations, the beneficiaries that cause trouble, other trustees, and you got to get your protectors, and you might even know what a protector is, and all this stuff you got to take care of. So the more you read on trust, the better your trust is going to be. Now, a trust, just like a business, in the beginning, uses the trustee's credit rating. If the trustee has bad credit, your trust is going to have a hard time doing things because any loans that need to be taken out must be done under the credit of the trustee. Now, we have tools that can help with that, and we can get that up to speed. But the better the rating score of your trustee, the better off the trust can leverage things to make sure it stays afloat. So if you got someone with bad credit, which is really an indication of their financial IQ, you probably want a better trustee. Because if you got bad credit, it means you're probably mismanaging it somehow. Obviously, there are other situations as to why somebody might have bad credit. But in general, it tells you why I'm going to loan you or not loan you money. So bad credit, probably a bad trustee. That's pretty simple. Now, in dealing with a trust, you want to keep your trust assets private. That is one of the advantages of having a trust. People don't know about your assets, so therefore they don't go after them or target you. So if your trustee is involved with people that could be questionable or just by the nature of their business could draw unwanted attention to your trust, this is not a good thing. And what I'm talking about are people with political affiliations. Now, I'm not talking about drug dealers. That should be a clear sign to stay far away from a trustee that deals with drug dealers. But political affiliations is what I'm talking about. Because if any scandal comes down the pipeline or any type of anything, they're going to start digging into him and his known associates. And if his known associates are involved with some type of business or trust, guess what? They're going to dig into that too. And then you're going to have to use those legal skills. And if you're not good with that, you're going to be in it's just your whole trust is going to start falling apart. And if the structure is not properly set up, it's just going to be a catastrophe. Then the courts are going to get in. Once the courts get into your trust, you're going to have a real hard problem, a real bad problem on your hands. So you don't want the trust to end up in the courts on any level. You got to protect your beneficiaries and their privacy and the assets. That's what you are hired for as a trustee. As the grantor hiring a trustee, you want to make sure that your trustee is not associated with any political figures that will draw any undue attention to your assets and to your beneficiaries. It is their job to keep all that private. That's what they're paid for. That's their job. It's in their description, in the trust indenture. Keep all that private. So keep them away from anyone who's associated with any sketchy figures, political or otherwise. Now, everything I just mentioned is for a new trustee. Now, even though this person may have never run a trust before, if they have all those skills, running a trust will be not difficult for them because all the elements are very similar to a business. Now, if you're hiring a trustee who has prior experience, you need a little more skills to look for. Now, everything I just said needs to be there on top of what we're about to cover. So these are skills needed or that you would look for from a trustee that has prior experience. Investments. We talked about investments before, but with an experienced trustee, they should be very familiar with investments or have connections somewhere so they can come in starting. Otherwise, all these skills we're about to discuss, what's the point of having an experienced trustee if he acts just like a new trustee? So investment, understanding, and connections that they're already working with. This is important if you're hiring a trustee that already has trust experience. Now, age comes into play when you start talking about a trustee with experience. Because of age, sometimes it should bring wisdom, at least with someone who's continually educating himself. Age will bring wisdom. You don't want certain things to be an issue. So at a certain age, those things are non-issues. So you want an experienced trustee to be at least around 35 years old. This one, you definitely don't want a 20-year-old trustee because they ain't got it figured out yet. It's still coming out of adolescence, really. 25, they're still trying to figure things out, and they can't think they got a grasp on things. Not until you reach about 30, you really start to understand things. And by that time, unless they're already very well educated, probably someone around 35, but the average way people are raised and educated, at least in a modern society, they all develop around the same kind of way. So 35 is a good age for an experienced trustee. They should have somewhere around 3 years experience of running a trust, for the same reason that a person have 3 years business experience of running a trust. First year, you're figuring it out. Second year, you're comparing to the first year and adjusting. And the third year, you should have a grip on what's going on because of the first 2 previous years. I just flipped the screen, everybody? Yeah, I did. Oh, well, but that's what it is. So 3 years. 3 years for previous experience for a trustee. An experienced trustee also needs to be very familiar with the legal side of things. Now, unlike a new trustee, not just understanding how it works, but actually having some court experience, dealing with lawyers on some level and being comfortable in court. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they've been a part of a bunch of court experience, but if they've gone and sat down in court and are very comfortable being in that type of environment, that is important. They just need to be important. They need to be comfortable. Again, this is an experienced trustee, so you're bringing in the experience. If he's just like a new trustee, there's really no point. You might as well hire a new trustee. An experienced trustee should be very familiar with financial institutions. This is opening and closing bank accounts, because opening a bank account for a trust is a different beast than opening it for a business or just a personal bank account. So they should be very comfortable doing these things, taking out loans, mortgages, all these financial things they should just be comfortable with. They've done it before. So there should be no hiccups, hang-ups, or anything like that. Now, this next skill is obviously very important, which is beneficiary distributions. As a trust, you're handing out distribution to your beneficiaries. This is one of the perks of being a beneficiary. So you need to understand how to handle that so there are no issues with the distributions you're giving to the beneficiaries. Because if there are issues, the beneficiary may cause a ruckus, and if your trust indenture isn't written correctly, they could break your whole trust apart. So make sure your distribution, it's a basic skill that you should have if you have an experienced trustee. You have to distribute money to people, and it has to be done regularly. It's almost like, think of payroll. It's like payroll. That has to be done correctly and smoothly to avoid any hang-ups that could cause undue hardship on the trust. Last but not least, you have to understand tax information. While you may have a CPA on your board of trustees or a CPA for the trust, you need to understand these forms yourself also. These are K1s and 1040s. Get with a CPA, read some documents. These are things that you should be familiar with as an experienced trustee, because you will have dealt with a trust before and have at least 3 years experience, and these should not be unfamiliar forms to you. Now, while there are many skills that a trustee can have, these are the ones when hiring a trustee that you should look for. A new trustee should have the first set of skills we talked about, and as long as those are in place, they'll be fine, because a trust runs just like a business. An experienced trustee should have the same skills to reflect that. It's someone that is experienced, and so they should be more familiar and very comfortable doing everything that a new trustee is able to do. So these are just the basic skills of all trustees should have. If you don't have them and you're trying to be a trustee, you need to get them first. Remember, a trust is not something you do like a startup business. You start it up and it shuts down overnight. Because it takes a lot of moving parts and a lot of transferring and title moves. You don't want to put that all at jeopardy because you're thinking this is like a business. It is a little bit more than a business. A common law trust is a little more complicated and a little more difficult to operate than every other type of trust because of the elements involved. So, and like I said before, if you're getting information from forums that's not specifically geared towards common law or just trust in general, don't listen. They don't know what they're talking about unless they can show you evidence of a trust and they can show you that they've been running this for quite a long time. It's not somewhere you want to get advice for a trust. Trust information is extremely hard to come by. I've been searching for at least 5 years and finally started finding everything and got everything together. Luckily, I've been running businesses for years and developing myself as a person individually, so all the information is nothing new to me. But for everyone else, if you've been an employee most of your life, you got a lot of training to do before you actually want to run a common law trust. If you're really looking to start up a common law trust, find a group of people that collectively have these skills. Even if you can find one person that has all of them, you really don't want one person controlling everything if they don't know what they're doing, or it's just not a good idea. You usually want a board of trustees. So at least 2 at minimum to run your trust that collectively have all these skills. Because finding one person with all these skills that are good enough is not easy to do. So either yourself, your friends, your family, whoever you're starting up this trust with, obtain these skills. Then start thinking about actually starting up a common law trust. This is the first trustee of Executive Trustee Training. Leave your comments below. If you have any questions, leave them below too. Or email us. Go to our website, executive-trusteetraining.com. And if you're really serious about this trust thing, you can join the Executive Trustee Training program. And we'll teach you all these skills. Now today, we're going to talk about trust. You never start the business and you want to start the trust? A foolishness. Idioting. Now when we do a trust, we don't want any idiot trustee. You want to challenge me? Fuck shit. Trustee, grantor, beneficiary? Yeah, beneficiary. Are the same thing. Now me and you have anything in here. You know what? You want the best trust in the world? Right there. Boom, boom, boom. Business, trust are the same thing.